So I was fairly confident, like I'd just have to hand around a few resumes and I could find a job. But it ended up being almost the complete opposite.
I was still trying to be positive, but it was getting harder.
Your life was on hold until you got a job.
When I arrived here, I'm looking for a job. It was a difficult time, not only for me, for the whole family.
Everyone's got to work hard to get to where they want to be, but guys like me have to work a bit harder because we have a lot of challenges that we have to face. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 3, which is high-functioning autism. I did really well at school, but I always sort of found it difficult to learn things. It's not that I couldn't learn, it's that I needed a particular way to learn. People with Asperger's are not stupid. We're just mistaken for being stupid because of our different way that our brain works. It's kind of like looking through a cardboard cylinder where you see the world from your point of view. You don't really see anything else. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school. So I tried a few different things, and then I was keen on becoming an apprentice carpenter, so I did a TAFE course. It didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. I did pass, but I found it very hard to connect with the other boys there, and I got belittled and laughed at and teased. You know, I don't know why people laugh at people with disabilities. I don't understand, you know. Between 2013 to now, there was just this massive gap with like nothing to do really.
The messaging from employers and from others isn't just no, it turns out to be no, I'm not good enough. When he kept getting knockback after knockback and he became quite depressed and he fell into some really poor choices, the pain of being unsuccessful and the pain of being said no to, he would blot out with self-destructive behaviour.
I was convinced, you know, that I was going to end up in a nursing home where I'd be looked after. I used to feel that I was worthless, that I wasn't good at anything. Why was I born? What was the purpose for me being here?
Michael was heading down a very bad... I don't know if I'd have had him around.
I got so tired of feeling detached and isolated from everyone else. I was just sitting there and I just thought, I'm better than this. There's much more to life than this. There's something out there for me. I know there is.
I was born in South Sudan and I came to Australia 11 years ago. The history of Sudan is a long history. It is a country been in war for many years. The year I was born, Arab chased the civilian away from their homes. My mom was pregnant and her shelter was only a big tree. I was born under the tree. While I was 17, my mom died. So I went to Ethiopia in 1989 to be a refugee. It is a very big heartbeat because I was in refugee camp, nothing left back home. Before I came to camp, I was a youth leader. I decided to do the ministry as well in the camp. We applied for refugee status in Australia. It is a long journey. Waiting in the refugee camp, it took me 4 years. Government said, we accept your application. I know I will miss my country, I will miss my culture. And I put my family first because my kid will have a good life. I decided to move around the country. When I came to Morwell, I feel welcoming from this community. I'm looking for a job, but it took me some months now. I can't find a job. I have a need, but I don't know where I can get help. It was a difficult time.
At the end of year 12, I was just completely exhausted from the whole year. It was kind of a weird shift because I went from like working every single hour of my day through studying to complete nothingness where no one was telling me what to do. So I decided to try and find a job. At first, when I started job hunting, I had that confidence to be able to go out and hand out resumes, 10, 15 resumes in, and getting heaps of rejections. It just became like a bit more of a real sensation of like getting a job isn't a walk in the park.
People don't understand how hard it is these days for young ones to find their way.
I applied for roughly 60 to 80 jobs for about 8 to 9 months before I heard my first proper opportunity come back. A few weeks or months into my first job, I was involved in an armed robbery where we had a gentleman enter the store, steal 2 knives, use one of those knives to threaten us. I had a week or 2 off just to, have a breather. As the months kind of rolled by, I'd have just anxiety attacks out of nowhere, and I remember just like being a huge mess and like running into the chicken coop and hanging on to my chickens for dear life. I'd had mental health issues growing up a lot as a kid, but that's when I really started going downhill, and I would have constant anxiety attacks and just never leave the house. I was stuck in bed all day.
And I got really concerned about her. It was to the point where I just didn't know how to help her. She was just like a lost soul.
I grew up in Sri Lanka. I got married when I was 22 and moved to Botswana with my husband, and I had Dwayne when I was 23. He was a really good baby. I wanted to take care of him. In 2014, I got separated from my husband. I moved out with Dwayne. I wanted a change for myself and also for Dwayne. When I decided to move to Australia, Dwayne didn't like it.
Everyone I knew was there, everything I knew was there. But I think after a few deep, conversations, she was able to convince me that it's better opportunities here.
When we came to Australia, I was really happy and I found really nice people. Some of my friends were here, some family. So for me, it was a new start and I was hopeful. It was all good. I think the struggle started when I couldn't find work for a long time. I worked as a finance manager in Botswana, so I applied for positions in that level. I wasn't even getting a call back. So I tried to contact recruitment agents and I had a couple of interviews with them but didn't get anything further. When we first came, Dwayne was, I knew he was sad and withdrawn. I tried to stay positive and not show him any negative side of what I was going through. Financially, I was down to 0. If I didn't get the job at that time, I didn't have money to pay the rent.
I was probably about 13 when I left school. Got my first paid job when I was 16. Most of my life I've always just been a labourer. I was working full time in 2012. We found out that Mum had cancer. So I started caring for my elder brother Jason, who has a disability. Family, so you don't even think about it. It was just an automatic decision. There was no question, there was no debate. It just has to be done. 2013 we lost Mum, so I kept caring for Jason for another 12 months roughly. And then I spent the next 2 to 3 years looking for work. Prior to that, you could get work relatively easy. You could just move from one labour job to another, but those jobs are getting harder and harder to find. It was very much like grabbing a whole heap of darts and throwing it at a dartboard and hoping that one of those darts will land in a job. You're surviving, you're not living. There was no outlook. You just had to hope you got through, pay your bills, get slowly and slowly further in debt, watch everything slowly erode away from you. I just knew I'd just keep on trying and just not let the dark close in. I found out about the job through Facebook. There was 3 or 4 different positions.
Rodney was that keen and, I suppose for a better word, desperate for an opportunity and a job that he came in and he actually applied for all of them. Rodney, is it? Yeah.
Meeting Andrew Bulmer was a little bit intimidating.
I remember shaking his hand and it was like a wet fish. He was perspiring that much. He was so nervous. You could tell that if he didn't get this opportunity, that was going to weigh heavily on him.
I had the feeling that they were interested in somebody maybe a bit younger. I just knew I just got to keep pushing forward because eventually life will change.
It was actually nice to sit down and ask someone, am I doing this right? And kind of get that reassurance that, like, it's not just me that's the problem.
The first time we talked, I know this guy is a good man.
Pride got the better of me and I thought, well, I can't ask again. So I decided to sleep in the car while I was waiting for a house to come available.
I was very nervous. Even I knew I can do the job.
I felt fantastic. I felt like a bloody ripper. I felt like for the first time in my life, people are going to take me seriously.
Authorised by Victorian Government, 1 Treasury Place, Melbourne.